All right, we are going to talk about making stem and leaf plots. Okay, so let's say we have some data about the price of, I don't know, we'll call it some bicycles, okay? All right, so it cost $189, $214. There's one that's $200. There's one that's $195. There's one that's $190, $192, $193, $211. So I'm just first creating our data set, and then we're going to talk about how to create a stem and leaf plot from this data set. Okay, so these are the prices of some bicycles. So a stem and leaf plot, it's a graph that shows numerical data arranged in order, and each piece of data is broken into a stem and a leaf. So what I would do is I might have in a stem and leaf plot, here we're going to set this to the side for a minute. You're always going to have two parts. You're going to have the stem and then the leaf. So this might be representing 10, where you have the stem is the tens place and the 0 is the ones place. You can show decimals on a stem and leaf plot like this, where again the stem has the 5 with the decimal, and then over here you have the tenths and hundredths places, okay? Or you might have it, you might choose to do it this way, where you put the ones and tenths here and then the hundredths to the right there. So personally, this is a way that you can do it, but I do not love that. I think it's much easier if you keep it so that the leaves are always a 1 digit. You can kind of choose how you're going to make them. So I'm going to say go ahead and make the leaves always 1 digit, okay? And you'll see why in a little bit. It just makes it easier. So over here we have what's called the stem, and over here we have the leaf, okay? And again, here we have the stem, and here we have the leaf. And I think personally it's best to have the leaf be just 1 digit. So if the leaf is going to be 1 digit, then what we need to do is we need to look at this data and see how are we going to do that. I have a 3-digit number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create stems that use the first 2 digits, and I'm going to leave the ones place to be the leaves, okay? So if I look up here at what I have a number in the 180s, 190s, the 200s, 190s, 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 the 210s, the 200s, 190s, 190s, the 200s, 190s, the 210s, the 190s, and the 200s. So I'm going from the 180s up to the 210s. So I'm going to make my stems reflect that. I'm going to have a 1-8 to show the 180s, the 1-9 to show the 190s, 2-0 to show the 200s, and then a 2-1 to show the 210s, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange my data in order from least to greatest. So I look at the 180s, and I see that I just have one piece of data that's in the 180s, just the 189. So I'm going to put a 9 here. So it's like you read this as 189, okay? And then I'm going to cross off that piece of data so I don't accidentally use it again. And now I'm going to move into the 190. When I look at the 190s, I see there's 190, there's 192, 196, 198, 193, 195, 195, and 194. So I need to include all of those pieces of data on this line right here. So then if I look, I have the smallest one is a 0, so I'm going to put that one first. And I want to put it right underneath the 9 because I want to make the digits each take up about the same amount of space so I can visually represent this data. All right, so there's the 190 piece gone. The next smallest is 192. So I'm going to put a 2 right here. Now that one's gone. And then next I have 193, so I'm going to put a 3 right here. That one's used up. And then 194 is the next smallest, so I'm going to put a 4. And then I have 2 5s, so I need to show those as 2 separate pieces of data. Put 2 5s. And then I have a 6 and an 8, so I'm going to put those, spacing them out nice and evenly. All right. So now in the 200s, I can look here and I see that I have 205, 200, 201, and 208. So it looks like I have 4 there. So we'll start with the 200, so I'm going to put a 0. Now for the 201, I want to put this 1 right underneath the 2, so I'm lining it up really well. There's another 201, 205, and then 208. And then in the 210s, I have 211 and I have 214. So I'm going to put a 1 for the 211 and I'm going to put a 4 for the 14. So now the reason we do stem and leaf plots is because looking at this now, I can easily see that most of the data is between like 190 and 208 because that's where the bulk of my leaves are. These are the lines that go out the furthest. And so the final thing to put on my stem and leaf plot, they're pretty simple in their drawing, but we put a key. And we're going to say that for the key, I'm going to put this, that 19 with a line and then a 2 means 192. That way whoever's looking at your stem and leaf plot knows that that is what, how they read it. So this number right here, we would read this as 214. Because it's the 2, 1, and then the 4. This would be 205 because it's the 2, 0, and then the 5. This is 189 because it's the 1, 8, and then the 9. Okay, so I want you to try this. You're going to pause the video and you're going to make, this is some data for the temperature in Death Valley. And I want you to pause the video to create a stem and leaf plot for this data. All right, so go ahead and try to create one and then restart the video to check your work. Okay, so again, when I look at this data, I see that they're not all into the hundreds like these were, but I see 8 and 9 for the 80s and the 90s. I see 80 as the lowest, and I see I'm going up to the 120s. So I'm going to choose to make my stems, and you might have done it differently, but I'm going to choose to make my stems 8, 9, and then 1, 0 for the hundreds, and then that to show the 110s, the 120s. The highest number is 134, so I'll put that. Okay, and now I can start filling in my data. So there's only 2 80s. There's an 86 and an 87. I'm going to put a 6 and a 7. I'm always putting these numbers in order from least to greatest. Okay, for the 90s, we have a 91 and a 97, so a 1 and a 7. For the 100s, we just have this one piece of data, so I'm just going to put a 1 because that's 101. For the 110s, 11 and 13, so I have 111, 113. And then for the 120s, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 2 zeros. I have a 5 and a 6. And then for the 130s, I have a 34. So that's what your stem and leaf plot should have looked like, almost, because we can't forget the key. And I'm going to do I'm going to say that that means 101, that 10 for the stem and 1 for the leaf means 101 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is how you create stem and leaf plots.